Welcome back, guys. Another VOD review today. A little bit of what I want to talk about today is there's two main things. The first is comms, which we don't have comms, so there's not a ton to talk about there, but I do want to cover it. And then I really want to talk about ultimates as well. It's especially important to use ultimates correctly on 2CP or traditional points that you think of that are very hard to break, like Numbani A or Numbani C. If you're not using your ultimates correctly and managing your ult economy correctly as well, you aren't going to get a lot of progress. So those are the two things we're going to look to cover today: is comms and ultimates. So first of all, let's talk comms. There are two types of comms, essentially, boiling it down, right? Your first is you have info calls, and the second is command calls, and these are very different, and one is better than the other. Command calls are much better. So what it comes down to is info calls are things like someone ball behind. Great, ball is behind. What do you want me to do about it? Right? And this is important because there are multiple responses to wrecking ball behind. There's so many things you can do. You can turn and kill the ball. You can push in quickly. You can try to play slow and bait him out, right? There's a lot of responses. You send your Sombra to go hack him, right? Maybe your Sombra's already set up in the backline, and you say ball behind, and the Sombra's like, well, I'm in their backline. That's not my problem. But what if your Sombra could TP back, hack the ball, kill him, and then we go in, right? This ball behind does not tell us what we want to do about it, right? So your second call would be your info call followed by a command, or sometimes it would just be the command. So it would be like kill ball behind, something like that, right? And this is especially useful at the beginning of fights. Actually, no, I'm not even gonna say that. I was gonna say it's especially useful at the beginning and end of fights, for cleanup and structuring your engagements. But it's also really important for mid fight if you have a tendency to get split and it's like on a one. That's an info call. What do you want me to do about it? Do you want me to kill her? Do you want me to, like, are we pushing as a team? Are we what are we doing with that information? And the command call answers that. Kill Ana, right? Instead of Ana 1. And then you'll notice that I included a location, kill ball behind, not just kill ball. It's like, that's great. Sure, yeah, if ball strays into my LOS, I will shoot at him. No, like, this is where he is, move your LOS to shoot him, right? So this is the difference between info calls and command calls. And if any of my players are watching, we'll talk about this more tonight, because I think it's something we could really look to work on. But let's talk about ultimates now. We're gonna mix things up a little bit. We're gonna start on offense. Yeah, we're gonna start on offense because the way that you build ultimates and use them to break a point translates, I think, better over to ult cycling on the defense than vice versa. So first, we're gonna talk about offense. So in specific to Winston comps, the Nano should always be the first ultimate, barring like a very fast pulse bomb, sometimes maybe like a copy, but generally speaking, you're looking at your Nano as your first ultimate. And the offensive Ana will always, almost always, 9 times out of 10, build Nano faster than the defending Ana, because the defense is better set up to spam and to avoid taking damage around corners, whereas the offense has to go and push in. So the attacking Ana will almost always build Nano first. Plan on that. Count on that. Build your Nano, and then look for an engagement. Unless someone feeds, your plan should be to win with Nano. Okay. I said ultimates, but looking at this, actually, I want to talk about tank cooldowns as well, because we're talking about Winston matchup here. Step 1 in the Winston mirror is force out there Winston. But just shooting at him oftentimes isn't enough. I don't expect our Winston to walk at their Winston and they shoot each other and their Winston leaves. They're on defense, right? We just talked about that. So instead what's going to happen is we're going to exchange cooldowns. So I'm going to slow this down. You saw we already used our Zarya bubble, our personal Zarya bubble. So we've used that, right? They now use their tank bubble and their Zarya bubble, right? So if we're tracking cooldowns, there's this bubble and then there's 2 bubbles on Zarya, right? On both sides. Right. And we need to force out their tank cooldowns before we look to walk. Otherwise, we're going to have a rough time. But at this point, they have now burned this bubble and this bubble. Right, one of their Zarya bubbles. And look where their Zarya is. Their Zarya is not up front, so I'm not worried about burning her bubble. Ergo, they don't have tank cooldowns. They have jump, which we'll talk about in a second, but we want to force his jump. We want him to use it to leave. And we have only used our self bubble. That's it. We now have the tank cooldown advantage. At this point, we don't need to force anything out of them. They have fed them away. This Winston is full HP, and they burn tank cooldowns. And that's a little bit of a throw by them. At this point, we just need to wait for these to wear off and then walk at them. I think probably just the Zarya ally bubble here was enough. Their Ana does land a nice nade, but we could have saved this bubble. Keep in mind that Winston's bubble is a longer cooldown, right? But bear with me here, as both teams have now used cooldowns. They use cooldowns first, they're going to get them back first, which is a problem. Because what I would rather see is now their Winston does not have cooldowns. No bubble. No bubble. Right? This Winston does not have bubbles. He does not have anything to protect him. Ideally, we dodge the nade entirely, but happens. Or we take it on the Zarya's self bubble. But if we have our Winston bubble here, their Winston's going to jump out here in just a moment. Right? Bam. Cooldowns. Look. There's the jump. He's out. Our Winston doesn't have bubble, which is unfortunate. This is where we would like to... We exchanged a couple of tank cooldowns, right? We used our Zarya bubbles. They used their Winston bubble. If we can still have ours, our Winston can have already jumped. We end up jumping now, but if we take a look at their cooldowns, Zarya bubbles, right? He's hacked, but has his bubble. Ideally, we're in a little bit earlier, perhaps with the nade, but we'll go back and watch this exchange of tank cooldowns again. And you can see where we could have come out on top in terms of tank cooldowns. Also worth noting that Ally Bubble is a shorter cooldown than Personal Bubble. Which means we could have our Winston step up first. But I'm really not too upset about this because we do need to get our Zarya energy. I just don't think the Winston bubble needed to be used. And then we could have forced out this Winston here. There's the nade, right? Jump after him immediately, right? You see our Winston turns here. It would be better to have both of their DPS out of the equation, their Winston still purple, and now hacked, and have our Winston already up here. But we get another Zarya ally bubble. We cycle our cooldowns again. They get their second bubbles. We need to give a little bit of space. We do. We soft dive again, right? You see, we're just jumping with the cooldowns. We're about to have Nano, which means no one can die, and no one has. But it's very important that no one dies here. Tragic. No way. Tragic. Probably could have translocator set up in a bit of a better position. That translocator position, if we don't get scouted, if we don't get found out, is more relevant to the team fight, right? We're closer, we can hack sooner, we can set up sooner. The problem with it is that I'm really not counting on our Sombra too much in this instance. What I'm really looking for is the Nano, and I think we use it anyway. We do. What about this engagement changes if our Sombra is a little further out? Like, instead of our Sombra being dead, let's say our Sombra had translocated out to here, or even back here, to get healing from our supports or in mini room, right? Now our Sombra's walked up and is like somewhere here, right? Can't walk past the DPS, but it is now here, still doing stuff. So I think probably Translocator in a bit of a safer position. We still nano engage anyway. Only our backline can shake their DPS a little better. Nano translates into Primal. I want to emphasize something here. There are two compositions in all of Overwatch where the main tank and your main source of healing can just completely disconnect and not worry about each other whatsoever. The first is Ball, because Ball is Ball, and the second is Winston comp. Our Winston is deep. Our Ana does not care, right? And this is because of Nano and Primal as a combination. I forget what the math is, but it's somewhere around like 2,000 HP, 2,500, if you count his bubble, Winston has like 3,000 something HP to work with, which is an absurd amount when you think about it, when he has Nano, Primal, and Bubble. So we can disconnect here. Space created is the idea, but we're going to go back and take a look at this. Their backline zoned. Space created. It'd be nice to have our Sombra with our backline, or more frequently, you play Cassidy or Echo, and then we shake their counter engagement a little better. Their Tracer's a little free. And whether or not we choose to run Cassidy or Sombra, or Echo, even just having more DPS in the backline is good. You'll notice our Winston lives this entire time, by the way, popping off as well, forcing support ultimates. But that's why no one can die. We have a great engage lined up. Right, you see our Winston is creating a lot of space. Their backline's really far back. But because we're just down 1 DPS, our backline kind of gets rolled over a little bit. If whatever our other DPS is on besides the Tracer, just having one person back here makes this engage a lot more successful. Their counter engage. I'm also curious, while we're on the subject of ultimates, or backlines rather. I'm curious to see how good of a job we do at clearing their front line when we nano engage. Just right after Sombra dies, so that'll be right about now. Okay. I thought that we had talked about this enough to kind of get good at this. But this is not something I should be seeing. I should not be seeing our Winston next to their backline while their Winston is next to our backline with full resources. This is not something you should be seeing. This Winston could very easily be forced out. Notice they don't have Nano. We will almost always have Nano first, which means we can take our time, shoot this guy, get him out. Our Zarya is down here, closer, able to beam the Winston, perhaps walk forward with self-bubble, get this guy out, and then jump. Alright. Yeah, this not something I should be seeing. And apparently we're still struggling with this. I want to go back and watch this from our Winston's perspective, because a lot of this is on our Winston. Our Winston's the one who calls for Nano, right? We lose our Sombra. The call comes in, I think right about now, that we can still go. And so we go. But the mistake is here. We have full tank cooldowns. They don't. This Winston is so easy to force out. Don't let him zone our backline. Don't let him get on our backline. Don't let him set up an engagement. Shoot him, get him out first. Then nano engage. So we're probably going to end up looking at 3 things here. I won't lie. Comms, which we already talked about. Ultimates, which we've talked about with Nano so far. And then forcing out the enemy front line, because we have not been doing that. Yeah, we force out their support ults. That's great. They have Primal. We swap Cassidy. This is fine. Notice our Winston's not on their backline. We're forcing out this Winston first. This is good. If we can land a hack on him, by the way, I'm curious to see where Sombra is. If we can land a hack on this Winston while he's in, right? If we like, I would say it's worth it to just sit here. And you see him back outside of his bubble here. Hack him here, he dies, and no one can shoot you. Small detail, but if we can just kill that Winston instead of forcing him out, that's great. But we'll note again. Look, Winston. Wait for it. Backs, right? He's backing. Tank cooldown cycled. Zarya hacked. Winston low HP. This is resources forced. Look at their Winston's HP and positioning versus ours. Our Winston's ready. Theirs isn't. We go in. We brawl with rally, right? We get the ally bubble, and we go push in. I'll admit, the main reason we end up winning this is because they used ultimates poorly the previous fight. Last fight, they burned both their support ultimates on a fight they had already won. Normally, and by normally, I mean 8 times out of 10 probably, you're going to need more than one ultimate to break a point on 2 CP. Rally should get us in, right? You'll notice we rallied and then we walked. Rally doesn't kill them. Rally just keeps us alive. So what happens when they haven't wasted their rally, and they have it, and they use it? Right, I'm going to go back just a little bit. In this position, what kills them? They have Primal, right? And let's say they also have Rally. What kills them here? I mean, we do damage, so do they, right? We're still essentially on even footing. And this is where you would need multiple ultimates, right? You would need the damage amp from Nano. You would need EMP to take away their cooldowns so that they can't live, and then, you know, they don't have cooldowns, we kill them. Or something like Grav, as well, to kill them, right? So we could use something like Nano or Primal or Rally, to kind of get in the door, like we have. And then, honestly, your support ults can also double as brawling ultimates, where once you're in, you can use them to kind of finish off the fight, but then you're going to be looking to grab an EMP to really cap. So they do waste their support ultimates, which means they don't have anything to stop us from walking at them. They primal, and their Winston looks for a kill instead of controlling space, and now the fight's over. Yeah, so we use one ultimate to get in the door, and then that's enough for us to win. In this case, normally, you're going to need to use more.
Objective lost. New defense point. Objective B.
So, here's an example of comms. Reaper behind. What do you want to do about it? You have options. You can ignore him. He's a Reaper, right? He's not a Cassidy. If he doesn't get close, he can't kill you, so we could just walk away, right? And if we're up here, and then he drops, and he's here, no one cares, right? He's not doing anything. Alternatively, we can turn and kill him. And if he gets long spawn, that's an opening pick. Look where our Brig's going, and our Tracer, right? They want to kill him. Our Winston is looking the other direction, because we called Reaper behind. And I think now is where we call, yeah, right there where our Winston pulls the 180, that's where we call kill him, and our Winston's like, wait, what's going on? Admittedly, like, our Winston's not feeding or anything, but worth bearing in mind, we need to be on the same page. Small macro thing for this map, playing lower is generally better. They don't have a hit scan, so playing upper can be a lot stronger, but the problem with playing upper is you get like an Ana here, and maybe a Zarya here, and then their Winston here, and this is a really, really strong stack for them. Whereas if we're here, we can kind of LOS their Ana a little bit, and we have a deeper angle on their Zarya to kind of fight her. Admittedly, we're not running a Cassidy, so that's less relevant, but... Okay, I mentioned one to two ultimates to get in, and 2 or 3 to close out. We are in the door, right? Primal. We've primaled, we're in the door. We got out their Grav, and we live, by the way. Spoiler alert. We're in, we have not won. Here's where I would like to see a grab on this Zarya. A lot sooner. Right, the moment... Zarya left. What What do you want me to do about it, right? Kill Zarya left. Oh, okay, I'll kill her. Grav. Bam. Dead. Fight's over. Almost, right? We have EMP. Right, this is again where those comms come in. This Zarya should have been grabbed a lot sooner. It doesn't end up mattering. Again, they haven't built any ultimates. We pick their Winston early. We just walk in for free. And then we have Nano as well to clean up even further. That's what a cap looks like when they don't have ultimates, right? They don't have ultimates, but... So we primal to get in. They burn their Grav, right? And imagine they didn't. Imagine they just shoot our Winston because they still have a Reaper or a Cassidy, right? If this guy's not dead. And then our Winston backs out, and then they walk forward with Grav. That's where we need more ultimates, right? We would need to EMP. We would need to really make sure we're killing things. Primal got us in. EMP and Grav. Close us out. That's how it needs to look like all the time, except they're actually going to have ultimates. And so our ultimates are going to need to come up a little sooner, and we're going to need to make sure we have an ult stack, right? In the door for this fight, right? This primal gets us in the door. EMP Grav, close out, and then we even have a cleanup ultimate as well for good measure in this instance. But okay, so that's how we're going to look to be taking fights on offense. 1 to 2 ultimates to get in, and then 2 or 3 ultimates to close out. In this case, it's 3, right? We use 3 ultimates to make sure we close out this fight. Alright, let's jump back to the beginning. We're going to take a look at our defense now. And we're going to look at defensive ult cycling. This is where matchups, I think, start to get really interesting, because if the enemy have, say, Rally and Grav, and we do as well, let's say they also have Nano. Forget their comp for a moment. They have Nano, right? Nano gets them in, and then they have Rally and Grav. Who's going to win the fight? Well, that depends on how we set it up. And sometimes the correct answer is you don't. You lose, which is fine. On point A. We play slow. We play back. Oh, I want to back up and talk about the setup. And by talk about the setup, I mean, why is our Ana so far back? Oh, we see they have a Zen and we back. Okay. Okay, our Zarya's too far forward. I don't remember. I think our Zarya lives. Barely. If they have a hit scan or a Diva or a Sigma instead of Zarya Genji, our Zarya is dead. So I'd like to mention, this is not a good sustainable position. Our Zarya is further forward than our Winston. Not good. Winston defines the engagement, defines where the brawl is. Our Zarya needs to play around that. Up here, playing up here is good for scouting and a couple right clicks when our Winston plays that corner. It's not a position we want to hold. Ball behind, ball behind. Kill ball behind, right? Remember that difference. Once again, really want to talk about ultimates. This setup's fine. We're playing this fine. Jump in with 10 cooldowns. Trish looks for a little poke. Doesn't burn recall. They swap Widowmaker. Back to this forward setup. I don't think we should really go back to this forward setup. Oh, our Winston does die for this. Okay. This forward setup is used to build Nano. I would like to be clear. Our Winston playing on this corner to cleave is done to build Nano and Zarya charge. That's why Zarya plays up here. Bubble Winston, bubble herself, back, right? Maybe we now have 70 charge and 20% on Nano. That's what that setup is for. We have Nano, almost, right? And we're also not worried about their Nano because they're not running an Ana. And we won first fight, dominantly. And having our Ana walk back up here to fire 3 shots on our Winston to then go back here is not... It's not efficient. It's also dangerous, right? When we aren't set up here at the very beginning, we don't know where they could be. Case in point, Tracer's already in. If we don't know this and the Tracer hides and then one clip, maybe our Brig goes for a whip shot on the Zarya, and in that frame, Tracer lands a 1 clip, right? A lot can happen. Plus maybe Widow lands a body shot. Discord Orb. A lot can happen. Don't try to transition back into this setup unless we are trying to hold them at the choke. But don't go back up here with the plan to jump out. A lot of things can go wrong. Remember how I mentioned no one can die when we're close to nano? Once again, this is why. We need to have our nano able to structure a proper engage. We win this anyway, if I remember correctly. Their ball goes in, gets hacked. Our Zarya is dead. Okay, let's talk about next fight now. Ultimates, right? We know we should be saying they have everything but sights because that's what everyone's been on. Let's take a look at this. Who leads our engagements? Winston does. Does this look like our Winston is leading the engagement? We're also down our Ana, worth noting. No, it doesn't. So two things need to happen here. The first is Zarya needs to back. And the second is Winston needs to come point, probably Mega, and try to build Primal to stall to get our Ana back. Now, that would be the ideal scenario. And by stall, I mean give 2 ticks in the process of building Primal, then touch with Primal, and then our Ana gets back. And you can mix and grab an EMP there as is, like, applicable to the situation, right? We wouldn't go for a grab here. There's no follow-up. We wouldn't go for an EMP here. There's no follow-up. That's what we want to do, is we want to give progress. But here's the thing. We don't do that because no one says to. I know for a fact our Ana says, you have no Ana. You only have break heals. What do you want me to do about it, right? Like, are we playing fast? Are we playing slow, giving progress? No one says that. No one calls it. And so we just don't know. And our Zarya dies for a grab that didn't need to happen. I don't remember if we win this fight or not, by the way. But we can give space here. We can give so much space. Just leave. Just back. Just back. Backing should have happened sooner, by the way. What point did our Ana die? Our Ana dies here. Our Ana is now dead. Back. 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 Keep backing. Keep backing. Don't stop in this corner. This jiggling? No, don't. Back. 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 But no one calls it. No one says to back up. So we don't. And our Zarya ends up dying for a grab that we don't need to die for. They counter grab. Fight's lost. Remember how I said things get interesting when both teams have win cons like Grav? Both teams grabbed. They won. Their setup was better. Right? This is how ultimates play out on the defense, is we're looking to ult cycle them, and we don't ult cycle them at all. We nano our Zarya at one point to clutch a fight because our Winston dies. Alright, I'm not worried about cleave. I'm really not worried about finishing up our nano. Play for the ult cycle. That means oftentimes we're going to be looking to play around these 2 types of areas. Our Winston is. And this is where we're going to look to grab them. And we do grab them here, but we grab them with half a team because we've died. And when we can't do that, when we can't grab them here as a team, we're going to back up and then look to re-engage from the high ground, because our ults need to be set up properly. When they have ults and we have ults, whoever sets them up better is going to win the fight. Once again, case in point, we're going to compare the 2 grabs. Both teams have grab. Both teams only use grab. Who wins? They do, because their grab is set up better. There's no follow-up on ours. There's follow-up on theirs. And we grab without giving any ticks. That's where the setup and the time to set up comes in, is we could have given ticks. Also, Con goes nuts here. Now, by the way, look, Arana's back. Arana's not only back, she's on the flank. And they haven't even taken a tick and a half. So we definitely could have given more progress here to set up our ultimates. That's how it works on the defense, is you set up your ultimates. Oh, man, if that nade hits the Zen... I'm nitpicking, but... Alternatively, sleep the Zen. Yeah, if this nade lands a little more to the side. Man, tragic. Anyway, if our Ana has time to go hit the flank before they've even capped 2 ticks, we have time to set up a re-engage. Defense, set up your ultimates properly. Okay, speaking of, they once again have ultimates. They don't have Grav. They're not running a Sombra, so this is a little bit interesting in terms of win cons. We should win this fight with our EMP. We'll see if we do. I don't remember. This was bold. We go up the elevator to EMP. I missed this. Their brig does not care. Their brig does not care. Their brig does not practice canceling EMPs. I can tell you that. I'm curious, why is their Sombra not already set up? Fair enough. Fair enough. Hack the Mega, right? They have a ball. It is worth noting, though, the comparison I always like to make is if both teams stood up from their computers right now, who wins? We do. They're not contesting the objective. We don't necessarily need to rush this. We can take our time, build our nano, try to force out their ball, EMP when they actually make a move. We don't have to be the ones to go first, especially because they don't have Grav. Having said that, if we Zarya bubble our EMP so that she can't get mashed, kind of chilling. If they have Transcendence, their Zen definitely should hit this. However, good setup. Follow-ups there, right? So we win that fight. They had Rally, they had Mines, they had Sights, they had Pulse Bomb. They lose the fights because our setup of ultimates is better. Okay. Sights gets them in. We cancel Minefield, which is kind of tragic for them because so this would be them using 2 ultimates to get in. This is where 2 ultimates come in. Sights gets them up to here because they know where the Sombra is, and then Mines covering this area means our backline has to drop or play forward here. Neither of which is good. We don't really want to do either of those things, and the Mines would still be blocking LOS if we did drop lower, which means they're here using Sights, then they drop and get here using Mines. And then they fight with Rally on point, right? So you can see the 2 ultimates to get in, and then Rally on its own isn't the best win con, but we don't have anything besides our own Rally, and if the offensive team is able to zone with Mines, we're in trouble, right? So there's how you use your ultimates on offense. But for defense, we just have Rally and Pulse Bomb. We want this fight to go longer. To build Nano, to build, and maybe land a Pulse Bomb. We want this fight to go longer. Please don't tell me our Winston dies. Our Winston dies. So you remember what I said about wanting the fight to go longer? We don't. We're not playing for our ultimates. If you look at our Winston here, there is no thought process going into the fact that we have Rally. None whatsoever. There's no thought to it at all. They're now in. They didn't even use Mines, and they're in. But imagine that Minefield goes off. Our Winston is even more dead, right? And now they get to walk. And we never got to set up our Rally. We give ticks, right? This is the alternative to... I wouldn't even say this is alternative, actually. This is about what it should look like. I'm going to say the alternative to matching their ultimates. They're at an ultimate advantage. They use ults to get in. We kind of let them in, right? We trade our space for their ultimates, and then we mirror ultimates, or we come back with our own, right? So we Rally. Our break needs to be with our Zarya. Our Zarya has not gotten any armor, which, by the way, armor would have helped so much with the Tracer, who's doing the majority of damage to our Zarya. So now our Zarya is super far back and super afraid. Also like to mention, long fights are generally good for Winston comps. Dominated. Lives because Rally armor. And by lives, I mean lives with full HP. Nano got a lot of value there. I would also like to note, so did Nade. This is a bit more about the map itself than actually ultimates. Who's going to stop this Nade? Ever. In any situation. Who stops this Nade on their team? Like, maybe there's Arya, but if there's Arya's constantly standing here, afraid of a nade coming in, just looking to body block it, they're not going to be getting nearly as much value as if they were running in here on our Zarya, right? So we want to play slow, right? We want to play slow. We're going to build our nano boost, which also gets a lot of value. But we don't play for that. Namely, our Winston doesn't play for that. Remember, our Winston structures the engages? That's another thing with comms, actually. I want to tie this in once again. We have rally. Great. What do you want me to do with it? Are we going early? Is our Brig gonna press Q, and then our Brig and Zarya are gonna jump the gap, and we're playing early, and our Winston's gonna jump up and meet them, and our Tracer's gonna be behind, right? This looks like a fairly good engage, right? Tracer, Winston, Brig, Zarya, and then maybe like our Ana has this LOS, or our Ana's here, right? This looks great. Is that what we're doing? I don't know. No one said anything, right? Alternatively, are we playing back, right? Maybe our Winston starts up here, gets bubble, maybe our Ana's here. And that's a Z. And our Zarya's here. We give our Winston some resources. Our Winston jumps out early to preserve resources, and then we rotate back around. And we play for our rally, drop point, and brawl with them. I don't know. Also a good plan. No one says anything. It also comes into fight planning a little bit. But part of that is command calls. I have rally. Great. What do you want me to do with it? It's not just about opponents and where they're at and what we do about it. What are we doing with our own stuff? I have rally. Make the fight go long. I almost have nano. What does that mean? Go hard to build it? Or play slow to make sure that we do build it? No idea. Command calls. What are we doing? I thought you had to double jump to do that. I thought you had to fire a second one straight up. Am I crazy? Anyway. Doesn't matter. I have grab. What does that mean? Are we grabbing at the choke? Are we going to play back and solo grab their ball so they can't take space? Because we know they don't have nano or rally to get them in the door? No idea. I actually do want to talk about fight planning a little bit. I'm talking about info calls and command calls. I want to talk about fight planning. Fight planning consists of a couple of key things. The first is going to be what ults you want to use, right? I have grav. Check. We called that, right? 2, where are we grabbing? I don't know if this was called, right? But let's say I want to grab them on their high grounds. Check. 3, when? Do we bait the ball in first, and our Brig like stuns him and he rolls away and then we grab? Or are we gonna grab before their ball even shows his face, right? You'll see their ball is hiding back here behind the where, right? Are we gonna grab before he's even relevant, right? So the third is when. This is gonna be your 3 things for fight planning. What ults do we want to use? Where do we want to use them? When do we want to use them? Right? There's their ball back there. So that's gonna be the 3 things. And my players, we'll talk about that more tonight, but I did want to mention that briefly. Ults, grav. Where? High ground. When? Early. Their ball's not even in, and 2 people are dead. I almost have EMP. What are we doing with it? That'd be a fun experiment, actually, is every time I hear an info call in scrims, I unmute and yell at them. I almost have EMP. Okay, great. What do you want me to do about it? I think that'd be kind of funny. I won't lie. This Tracer plays this well. You have no Ana. Great, what do you want me to do about it? Real question. What are we doing about it? Do we primal early to hold space? Or do we let them in and primal late to push back when our Ana comes in? Either's a fine plan. Depending on their ultimates and like the exact situation, what ults we have, etc. But really, like what's the plan? So we end up primaling to hold space. Our Winston is not ready for this EMP. Our Zarya is, at least. There is that. And our Winston does kill the Zarya. Our Winston had a nice juggle. Nice bubble. A poor attempt at a clutch by them. You remember how I said set up your ultimates? How much did this Nano get? Nothing. How much did this rally get? Nothing. Don't try to clutch on 2 CP. Just don't. Small ultimates like Shatter, if you're playing Brawl on a 2 CP map. Maybe. Like High Noon, Pulse Bomb. You know, High Noon for the reload, whatever. But don't use big ultimates like Nano and Rally. Support ults. Don't use those to try to clutch. I have Grav. Or I almost have Grav, right? I almost have Grav. I have Nano. What are we doing about it? Are we playing early? Are we going to Nano or Winston early to buy time for Grav? Or are we going to play back and give them space so that we can Nano and Grav at the same time? Either's a fine plan. Which are we doing? There's the Nano. In this case, so this is what makes the difference between a good fight planner and a great fight planner. Nanoing early is not a bad call almost ever. Like, if I hear Nano early on their high grounds, I'm not like, oh my gosh, you're throwing, right? That's a good fight plan. Notice I said Nano. That's the first ult. That's an ult. Second step, on their high ground early, right? I said all of those 3 things. That makes a good fight planner. A great fight planner, right, takes this into account. They have to grab where there's follow-up. They cannot follow up back here. They can follow up here. I don't know how their Ana gets nade off. Or why she goes for it instead of sleeping on Winston or nading herself or both. But point being, there's follow-up. And so this is the difference between a good fight planner and a great fight planner, is you can say Nano on their high ground early, or you can say save Nano for Grav ults, and we can grab them when they drop. There's your fight plan. And the reason why we do that is so our backline is safe from Grav, right? The difference between good fight planner and a great fight planner. It's what's their win con, it's Grav. How do we play around it? They need follow-up on Grav. Also notice that we didn't get a chance to Grav. Our Zarya didn't. And I don't know if our Zarya ever does get a chance to Grav. Nice stick. Honestly, the rest of this is kind of just stagger fight. We Grav. I think, based on the fact that Brig and Zarya died, I'm going to assume we win this. Yeah, I remember now. We do prevent the full cap. But you can see where the comms come in, right? The fight planning of Nano early on their Nano on their high ground early, right? Your 3 steps. But then a better fight plan would be, okay, we have ultimates. We know pretty much anyone at this level can tell you immediately the different options with like Nano and Grav. Like, you can go early, you can go late. It's not that complicated. But then you take into account which one is better, what's their win con. So that should be the thought process when fight planning. Okay, we already covered the defense, so brief recap. We'll go over here. It's nice and dark. We already did info calls versus command calls. I forgot to take a screenshot of that. But fight planning. I'm gonna simplify this. What ultimates? Where are we using them? And when? Because you could use an ultimate at the choke after they use ults, or you can go really early, and the ult will be in the same spot, so you have to clarify when, right? At the choke does not mean early, it does not mean late, it means at the choke. So, early or late. And this is how you fight plan. And then, bonus, I'm gonna make sure this is separate. Enemy win con, right? What's their win con? How do we play around it? Right, something like this. Save that. So this is this is how you fight plan. And then I did command calls versus info calls. What was the other thing I wanted to use? Oh, ultimates. 1 to 2 ults to get in the door. 2 to 3 ults to close. You don't even necessarily need an ultimate advantage. If both teams have fairly equal ultimates, if you set yours up better, you can just win. Any thoughts on dry fights in this planning stage? You don't dry fight on defense on 2CP, so I didn't bring that up, but that is something, that is a very good question, Thesis. Dry fights, offense, well, man, now I wish that I hadn't, can I just bring this back? I can. Dub. Okay. On offense, this is what you're looking to do, right? So if you do not meet these requirements, if you don't have 1 to 2 ults to get in, or 2 to 3 ults to close, maybe you have like, maybe you have nano, and that's it. You can, we'll talk about dry fights in a moment, but you can't win a fight with nano on Volskaya B offense. You just won't. Your 1 ult gets you in, and then you're completely missing this stage. So what you can do is dry fight. And there's a couple ways to do this. There's dry fights and there's eco fights, which I've never heard someone put a difference to out loud, so I'm going to, because I feel like it's really misunderstood. A dry fight means nothing. 0 ults. An eco fight means 1, maybe 2, but I would probably just stick to 1. In fact, I'm just gonna leave it at 1, right? 0, this is dry. 1, that's an eco. And the point of these are slightly different. For a dry fight, what you're looking to do is build ultimates, right? We have nano, that will get us in, and we're close to grav and rally. That's what would win us the fight. But maybe in this case, close means 60%. We're not just going to sit there AFK while that 40% builds. They're going to build their ults too. We can't do that. And so maybe that's when we would look to dry fight. We would just go in. They burn a couple ults as they ult cycle, right? Maybe they nano on the high ground. We don't use anything. Now they can't nano us on the high ground, and we can have our 2 to 3 ults to close, right? Nano gets us in, rally grav closes. Eco fight means they have a lot of ultimates, and we can't have that happening, right? Maybe we have primal to get us in the door. Let's say we have primal, nano, rally, and grav. Those are our four ults. And I'm gonna write this out. We have primal. We have nano. We have rally. And we have grav. That is a big Y. So we have all of these ultimates going for us. But let's say they have 6 ultimates. The exact number doesn't matter. Point being, we're not going to win this fight, probably. It's debatable. So what we do is we burn one of these ultimates in an eco fight. Right? Probably primal in this instance. We burn primal, and the next fight we open with nano. On that build, that starts us building towards our next primal, which is cool. But we probably burn primal. They maybe their plan was we can grab nano monkey on high ground. I want to use a different color for this. Their plan is to grab nano monkey. Maybe they throw pulse in there as well for good measure. Right. So we trade primal for grav, nano, and pulse bomb. So now they have, what did that leave them with? Like rally, high noon, and primal. Right? We can sleep the primal. I'm really not worried about high noon, and we can match their rally, and we have grav, and we have nano, right? So that's what you'd like to do with an eco fight, is spend an ultimate to get out their ults. Dry fight would be, we are just building our ults, right? Eco fight, you have ults. Dry fight, you need to build them. That's the key difference. Sometimes they overlap a little bit, like, say we have nano and primal, and we're 60% on rally and grav, right? And they have a lot of ultimates. You nano, and then that counts as an eco fight because we are spending and trying to get them to spend. We just happen to build our ults in the process. But really, what you're looking for in dry fight versus eco fight and what to call is going to be, dry fight is build ults, and an eco fight is baiting ults. And this can be really effective on the offense. I said whichever team sets up their ultimates better wins. What if they just don't have ults because they spent them last fight? Yeah. This will be, I think this will be a better screenshot than the previous one, so I'm going to take this one instead. Excellent. Good question, Thesis. Thank you. I hope I answered that to the fullest. Yeah, that's how ultimates are going to work. That's how macro, generally speaking, works on Volskaya. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below, and I'll be sure to answer all of them. Thesis, thanks for your questions. I hope to see all you guys in the next one. Peace.